FairPhone it's a movement actually. And what we're trying to do is create a smartphone that uses the best practices today, and to spark a change in the industry. And by industry, we don't only mean the manufacturers or the brands, but also the consumers as well. To be more responsible and more critical about their stuff, to create a connection with their products, not just the brands, and provide visibility to the issues, good or bad, that go around the phone ecosystem. The inspiration from FairPhone actually started 3 years ago. As we were part of the Vox Society, we were asked to do a campaign on the impact of phones. Particularly around this time, there's a movie called Blood in the Mobile that came out, so a lot of people started asking questions. And we were mostly focused on the actual material levels, so the Congo and the precious materials and the conflict minerals. So we went there and we looked at it, and even after the Dodd-Frank Act and all this stuff, we realized, okay, there's actual problems that are still here. And I'm not talking about the conflict, that's there, but the fact that if all these people move out, then the miners don't have an economy, so that they're kind of screwed. Another thing that we did differently is that we didn't assume the West is best kind of approach, where we had, okay, child labor is wrong, this is wrong, wrong, wrong. We said, okay, well, let's go with a blank state of mind, ask them what do they need, what's their biggest issues, and we actually found out that right now, it's not a living wages per se, or shoes or whatever. The miners, what they want right now is a spectrometer, because they have no idea of gauging the value of their actual produce, which is weird, because if you go to the West, it's like no one mentions this, it's all change the living wages or change the labor conditions. The fact that when you ask them, what do you need, is completely different what we expected they wanted. The fact that, they said, we need to be able to gauge the value of our work. And it's not, they didn't say we want higher wages. They said we just want to know how much we can charge people, because right now the middleman controls the spectrometer, and he looks at it and says, okay, there's 50 grams of gold here, but okay, there's gold, but there might be cobalt, there might be all this other stuff, and that's valuable. So that for us was a huge eye-opener, and then that's when we decided, our approach to everything is not going to be strictly academic. We're not going to look at reports and say this is bad because it's been studied. We're actually going to go to the areas where the change needs to be, and we're going to ask, what do you need? So that's kind of our approach. So we went there, then we said, okay, we can make a battery, a fair battery, cobalt. But then we started extrapolating. It's like, maybe we can make a phone. We were crazy enough to think that, hey, let's take it as a design challenge. Most of us have design backgrounds, and that's where it started. Then from then on, we thought big, changed from an NGO essentially to a company. Spun off from the Vox Society and decided to make a phone.
Can you explain a little bit more about how the phone is actually made and how the materials are sourced?
Yeah, so the actual phone is, the design is licensed, because we don't have the capacity to design it ourselves. But the materials, it comes from, so that we work with initiatives in the Congo. So this would be from the Solutions Network, so Solutions for Hope, Conflict-Free Tin Initiative. And what they do is they create closed pipe supply systems for the produce, and it's conflict-free, and it's essentially bagged and tagged, and you can track it until it leaves for export, and then goes to the smelters, and then goes to certain cases to the subcomponent makers. So I can give you an example. If you look here, this is actually conflict mineral. This is tantalum, and this is a lot of wars or militias, as you say, are fighting for control of this, and ends up becoming a capacitor, which is this, and that's in your phone. Mm. Now, this to this, there's a lot of steps in between, and the systems, the Conflict-Free Tin Initiative, for example, the system they have is they want to track everything until the point just before it's being made, because at this point it's in a factory. And that's how we can see, okay, we know that AVX is the manufacturer of the capacitors we're using. AVX has been using materials that we can trace that come from conflict-free certified mines. So what we do is we go to China and we tell the manufacturer, you have to use AVX capacitors, because we can trace that. Same with tin, and it's from Cooks and Alpha, does them. And tin is used in the soldering paste to glue everything together. We're looking at other choices as well. So gold, how can we put fair trade, like that's even a next step beyond conflict-free, fair trade certified gold into the phone. There's challenges there, because it's the scale of this, it's artisanal mining, is quite small for big manufacturing. Then tantalum, it's already there. Tin is already there. Tungsten, which is in the vibrating mechanism, we're already looking at that. And cobalt for the batteries. And we're focusing on these first. And then the next step would be how to get trade certifications on these materials to actually have a fair trade phone.
One thing that may put people off is the fact that it is still being produced in China. Can you explain a little bit more about that?
Yes, actually we have an entire blog post too where we explain our decision, and the philosophy is the same ones we used as to why we source from the Congo. I mean, technically we could source from Australia and it will be non-conflict minerals. The reason is we go into Congo and we go into China because that's where the impact needs to be made. That's where the problems are. And since we're all about trying to change and create impact, well, we have to be where it's most likely going to be more impactful, or the effect of it will be felt the most. So that's why we went to China. Second, we did explore the possibilities of, okay, maybe we can make a phone in Europe. And what we've seen is that most of the subcomponents still end up coming from China, and since we want to open up the supply chains, which means digging deeper, not just on our first-tier supplier, but their suppliers, and then the suppliers of the suppliers, we are going to end up in China either way. So if you put all this together, it's like, okay, our mission is to create impact where impact needs to be made, and everything eventually goes through China, so we have to go to China. Same with the Congo, you know. People say, well, you're in a conflict area. Yes, but we're working with conflict-free tin initiatives and giving people an economic choice. In China, we're looking to see, okay, the problems are different, much different there, but we're also engaging the same way as the Congo. We ask them, you know, what are their needs? I mean, what can we do as a small company? And it usually involves, like what we did with Congo, multi-stakeholder initiatives, and that's what the process we're employing.
What benefits have the communities that you've been working with seen so far?
For the Congo, it's basically the guarantee of an economy, essentially. Mm-hmm. So we are giving them, we're downstream partners of this initiative, so we're basically a client, which has been very beneficial for them. A lot of people say, what's the difference between conflict-free certification and fair trade? Fair trade is a whole different process. Conflict-free, you can see it as the step before fair trade, because there's quite a substantial difference between knowing that you're working in a secure environment as opposed to working in a mine that the next day rebels might come in and say, okay, it's ours. Mm-hmm. So that's, I guess, the social impact, and you can feel it. I mean, there's children playing football and everything, whereas that's kind of unheard of in non-conflict areas. So that's the impact we've had in the Congo. In China, we're still talking with the stakeholders to see what can we do. We're thinking of creating some sort of worker welfare fund. The name is something we came up with, in which we wanted to involve all the stakeholders are present and in the decision making, so that from the workers to the management to us to the local NGOs, etc. And that's still being under discussion because we need to gauge as 10 people how much impact we can do in a billion people, you know. But that's still the process we're doing.
Besides just how you source and how the phone is actually produced, what makes you different from the rest of the market, the rest of the phone companies?
I think the most important thing of FairPhone, and what makes it so appealing to so many people, is the fact that we call ourselves strategically naive, and because we're naive, we don't know a lot of things, so we ask a lot of questions, and we make all of that visible. So you can check our blogs, our videos, everything. Everything we do, we record, we share with people. And that's how we've learned a lot of these things. If you had come back, I don't know, 2 months ago and asked me for this interview, I wouldn't have these answers, because a lot of this was learned because people have been questioning. So it's transparency, really. That's the key word, actually. We're transparent in everything we do, and the people that join us, so partners and suppliers, we ask them for the same level of transparency as well.
Something obviously that a lot of people are worried about right now is the NSA spying through the phones. Is there any kind of plans to produce a phone that wouldn't allow this?
Well, right now we don't plan anything because that's on an Android level. It's actually a code. A lot of people need to know that this code is actually available. If you Google SE Android, so that's Security Enhancement Android code, you will get to the page where you see actually where the code is. If you have developer knowledge, you might be able to tweak with it. As for the other people, what we're doing is we want our phone to be really user-friendly and provide the same level of choice as we do with the miners. So we're actually making it really easy to root or hack, so you can change the operating system. And so if you want to install Firefox or Ubuntu, then feel free if you don't like Android. And yeah, that's the kind of options we can provide. But on the basic code level, we can't. So we do nothing of that. So this is what we call a mock-up. So it's a licensed design. So this was designed by, it belongs to Ahong. This is our manufacturer. We're experimenting with design changes. So we want to put this like metallic back cover on it to really make it stand out. It's dual SIM, so you can load 2 SIM cards, and you can call one number is just like your business number, the other one private number. Let's see. Kwame Corp is our like software guys. They're experimenting with a new interface, look and feels. So this is very basic, but like a side swiper app launcher. So you can have a very clean interface, and if you want to do whatever, just side swipe it, and that's something they're working on. Yeah, it will come with Android Jelly Bean, and it's like we will offer ROMs, so you can either use our FairPhone skin Android version or stock Android, or we're gonna provide you the tools to install Ubuntu or Firefox if you want. Make it as easy as possible, and for that we engage with open source communities. Another thing that's different, and it's a conscious design choice, is that it's actually quite a heavy phone if you compare it to the new phones. Mm-hmm. Because what we feel is like a lot of people nowadays, the phones are so light and they put them in their pockets, they forget about it, sit down, cracked screen, they go to the repair shop, oh, warranty issue, let's just get you a new phone, you pay, I don't know, $100. But that's already creating e-waste, because the cracked screen will end up somewhere and it needs to be properly recycled. For us, it's like, no, this has a lot of value, and one way to remind people of the value is if it's tangible, it feels like it. We also made it fat, if you want to call it, because we don't believe in design anorexia. A lot of new stuff, components are glued together to make it as thin as possible, mm-hmm. which means it's harder to open up and harder to repair yourself. So for us, we like to tinker, we like to repair our own stuff. So we say, hey, if you want to repair your own phone, we're gonna work with iFixit to give you manuals. Spare parts are gonna be available, and it's pretty easy to open, so repair as much as you want, so you don't have to spend money on repair shops or throwing it away. So all these decisions, it all comes down to the fact that we love playing with toys and we like opening them up, and you can also put that into how the FairPhone came about. Mm-hmm. We like to tinker, so we tinkered with a phone once, realized you can't really open it, doesn't look that good, or for us at least, it's not really ethically. I don't know where anything's coming from, so let's start digging deeper.
What is the ultimate goal of FairPhone, and what change do you think that you can make with this?
Our ultimate goal is actually industry change. Well, actually not industry, but the whole ecosystem. And by ecosystem we mean the industry, the players in it, and also the users or consumers, whatever you want to call them. So our ultimate goal would be to the point where making a FairPhone so ethically sourced, ethically manufactured, and also ethically sold, in the sense like providing clear deals to people, not ripping them off, etc. That becomes a standard, not a differentiator, not something that makes you stand out. It's just how everything is made. And we feel that we can provide or give a light to how this can be done just by the way we do stuff. The fact that we're so transparent, we're not afraid to ask questions. We engage in multi-stakeholder collaborations, and we realize, if you want to change everything, everyone needs to be involved, not just you and a few of your friends. So that's kind of what we want to show. Our model, a social enterprise in a very competitive and saturated market can make a change.
You grow up taking Adderall every day, you're probably going to be more prone to having a problem with speed or amphetamines. It kind of carves a place out in your brain at that early age.
I was very lucky to disarm this suspect and take him down. And when he almost died, the NYPD came in, took credit for it, and said that Joe was only a victim. Now the case gets really interesting because Joe filed the lawsuit